Hey there YouTube, I'm Joe and you're watching my channel Ink&Iron, and today I have a review for you of this multi-tool. This is the Gerber Dime. I bought this new. This is actually my second dime, so my experience will range from the dime I had previously, which was red and silver. I'll try and crop in a photo if I can find one. And this current one is the black finish with the purple handles, and the reason I went with purple is I like purple, and also purple was $3 cheaper on Blade HQ for some reason. So I'm secure in my masculinity, and it actually saved me money for once. So yeah, quite enjoyed that. As you can see, a little bit of oil from the factory is still hanging out here. I really haven't done much to this second dime that I purchased. So let's get into some basic specifications just so you can get a sense of how big this tool is. The overall length when closed is 70 millimeters or 2.75 inches. The width of this tool, so this dimension right here, is about 2 centimeters or 0.8 inches. The weight of this guy, 67.7 grams or 2.4 ounces, and the thickness this way is 1.1 centimeters or 0.43 inches. So a very compact tool, and let me just give you some size comparisons up front so you can tell what size we're dealing with. This is basically perfect for the fifth pocket on your jeans, which, if you didn't know, is actually a watch pocket, as in a pocket watch. Here's a Leatherman kick, just for scale. Have a Victorinox, what do you call this? The Classic. Victorinox Classic is everywhere. At one point it might have been TSA friendly, but not anymore. And here is Leatherman Style CS. This is the one with scissors. I think there's one with pliers, but I don't remember exactly. This is the only other tool I've ever seen with like a dedicated bottle opener, and this one's also a carabiner. So yeah, very, very compact multi-tool. This is a small sized multi-tool. Like, this is just barely big enough to cut decent sized wire. In case anyone has some other stuff, here's a Gerber EAB, and here is a Spyderco Man Bug. So the dime is a very compact multi-tool package, and I think that works to its advantage. And let's get to talking about the tools so I can explain that to you a little bit better. The first tool we'll talk about is the pliers, and I should mention something right away. When you go to open these, the handle scales have a tendency to rub together, and I didn't notice this on my last dime, maybe because half of it was already silver, but in the course of using this over a couple of days, you can see that a lot of the purple anodized finish has worn off of these handles. So that is something to be aware of. The tolerances here are not exactly what you might expect from a very high quality tool, although the price point will balance that out a little bit. So the pliers, let's open it up. They are spring loaded, which I am a big fan of because that makes this more of an entry-level multi-tool. To have a full-size tool without a spring, you need to kind of finesse with your fingers, and that puts this, a little more skilled operator usage, not something for the somebody in an office setting. This is a perfect tool for an office setting, and it starts with these spring-loaded pliers. Very easy on the hands, and they align very well. So yeah, overall they are good. They are precise enough to pluck hairs or remove staples, that kind of precise work. I wouldn't put them through too much more than that, but in terms of everyday usefulness, I would say they're very usable. Next up is going to be the wire cutters. They are included on the plier heads. You can see there's just oil everywhere here. These are not heavy-duty wire cutters. I wouldn't cut anything more robust than, say, like a paper clip or some zip ties or something like that. Very, very light duty. You do run the risk of sort of warping the way the plier head sits together if you cut anything too sturdy. So very, very light duty only. Alright, next up let's talk about the blade, and it should be noted here that the only thing available to you when the pliers are open is the plier head, which I quite like. Every other tool is accessible from the exterior when the pliers are closed, which I think is how multi-tools just should be designed. We sort of hit that point where we're like, oh, this makes a lot more sense. Let's just keep doing this. So that is a positive for the Gerber Dime. And let's open up our blade here. This is an unknown steel, so that's not great. However, the blade itself is basically entirely belly. There is no straight portion here, and we also have a sheep's foot finish. So this is an extremely non-threatening blade, and the full length of it being a slight curvature makes it very good at cutting. I've opened mail with this. You can't quite shave unless you really dedicate a lot of time to putting a fine edge on here. This is a utility blade, if I've ever seen one. And I think it does its job well. It's very non-threatening for, say, a professional or office environment. Basically, if somebody's threatened by this knife, they have serious issues that need to be addressed and are not your problem. Okay, on the same side as the knife is the retail package opener, which in my opinion is one of the best tools on this multi-tool by far. So you have a very sharp little chisel cut blade here, chisel cut because the back side is perfectly flat, and then you just have a singular bevel on here, very much like a chisel, but as you can see it's at an angle. So this is meant for dipping into, you know, something like tape or cardboard or whatever, and then just drag cutting across it. And this is easily one of the best tools on here. You can use it for light duty cutting, opening packages. Obviously you can cut zip ties. You can do a little bit of scraping with this unsharpened tip up here, and it even has the same amount of reach as the little knife blade. So this is basically a secondary knife. If you have somebody that's afraid of your little tiny sheep's foot knife here, pull out the retail package opener instead. I used to use this tool most frequently in a food service setting. So there were kids around, there were elderly people around, there was anybody and everybody around. And I would pull this tool out deliberately, even if I had a bigger knife on me, for cutting tasks, because it is so inoffensive. No one ever got on my case for pulling this out in a public setting. So let's move on to the scissors here. This is a very tiny pair of scissors. Gerber's, well, one of their subsidiary companies, I believe, don't quote me because I'm not sure, but Gerber is related to the company Fiskars, which makes scissors, so they are typically pretty reliable scissors. I will say on the last Gerber Dime that I had, the only tool to break on me was the scissors. Now granted, I was overusing them. I was using them as honestly, a cannabis trimmer. I live in Colorado. I work in medical cannabis. Not really out of the ordinary for me, but cutting up sticky nugs definitely put some strain on the scissors. I developed a crack on them, like somewhere around here, like near the pivot point, just a crack straight through the steel, which was extraordinarily odd. And I would show you, but I actually don't know what happened to that Gerber Dime, so this is currently my only version. But the scissors do everything you need them to. They can cut things like clamshell packaging. It's a bit of a struggle because that's a bit sort of out of the range of these tiny little scissors. Let me just bring in, look, here's a pair of trauma shears. So these are not heavy duty guys. These are nipping threads and, you know, nipping some paper and maybe a little hair trimming. If these are light duty scissors at best, and they do serve that function okay. Move on to the flathead driver, if I can remember which side it's on. Here we go. So this is the one driver that's positioned correctly. It is okay. It's for me, a little bit more of like a scraping tool because of its nice flat nature. It is tapered, which is a bad way to execute a screwdriver. So it is what it is. Yeah, there's not much more to say. Oh, also it has very poor reach. As you can see, it's like not even the end of my finger length off of the tool. So I hope that your flatheads that you're turning are very, very close to where you need to reach them, because this has basically no clearance. That being said, let's move on to the even worse driver on here, the Phillips head. Okay, check this out. So it's right next to the bottle opener, as you can see here. On the exterior is a single cut file pattern. On the back side is a double cut. So let's start with the screwdriver aspect of this. Essentially your clearance is this much because of the bottle cap lifter right here. So this is all the length you get out of your Phillips head, which is even worse than the flathead over here. It is also tapered, so it's going to damage your hardware if you choose to use it. That being said, for daily tasks, this might be enough. You got a loose cabinet handle, at the work kitchen, you tighten it down. This is good to go for that kind of thing. If you're doing any real manual labor or technically skilled job, this is a joke. This is an absolute joke. The file on it, we're going to move over to the file. Basically goes without saying this side is useless because it is literally jammed up with the key ring and the bottle opener. You can barely get like your fingernail in here to try and file them off. I don't know why they even bothered to put a file pattern on this side. This is ridiculous as a file. I think you could have just left it off the tool altogether and it would have been fine. If you want to maintain your nails with this tool, simply use the scissors. That's what I'm going to recommend to you. So the bottle opener. It is one of the main features of this tool, and like I said, this is not the only multi-tool to do this kind of thing. Leatherman also has done it on their Style CS here, and yeah, this is good to go. I've used this cap lifter on my previous version of this tool many hundreds of times, and totally reliable. Does it bend the cap? Yes, it does. If you're a bottle cap collector, you're going to need some kind of specialty bottle opener to preserve your caps. But if you're like me and the beer inside or the beverage inside is more important to you than the cap, then this is totally good to go. I really like that this tool is also accessible. Just pulling the tool out from wherever you have it. You pull it out, pop your cap, put it back wherever it was. It's a piece of cake. It makes life easier. Last tool I want to talk about is the tweezers, and that's just because I have minimal sort of experience with these. They are cut at approximately a 45-degree angle just based on sighting it. They're okay. They'll pull some hairs, they may cut hairs, so they're not the best tweezers. You really can't beat a dedicated pair of tweezers. Multi-tool tweezers tend to be a little bit lackluster, but I do like how they match the end of it to the handle scale, so it fits in there very discreetly, and if you don't want to use it, you don't have to. And if you don't want it to fall out, I've never had mine fall out, even on the previous version of the tool that I owned. So yeah, seems good to go. Okay, and that's it. That's all I wanted to say about the Gerber Dimes tool set. The price I paid for this was $16.95, and it is March of 2021, and the retailer I bought this from was Blade HQ, which is my preferred retailer. I live in Colorado, and so things get to me usually within inside of a week, so that's why I use them. But yeah, this was $3 cheaper than any other version that Blade HQ had. I do like the purple finish. I am a little bit upset that it is wearing off just from using the tool, but oh well. The last tool that I had, the Gerber Dime, got really beat up anyway. I had it on my keys, I had it in my pocket, I had it all around everywhere, and even though the scales on the outside got banged up, it really was totally fine functionally until the scissors broke. So yeah, at $16.95, that makes this essentially half the cost of a comparable tool from Leatherman. I'm thinking the Leatherman Squirt. The Leatherman Squirt is $39.95 on Blade HQ right now. So yeah, this is less than half the money. And if you've never owned a multi-tool before, this is the place to start. It's very cheap, it's very discreet, it comes in interesting colors, and it's going to be fairly reliable, especially if you're paying less than 20 bucks for a multi-tool. If you're like, hey, I just want to try it out, I want to know if I like carrying a multi-tool, get yourself one of these. If you don't like it, you are 20 bucks or less in the hole, and you learned a lesson very, very cheaply. So yeah, that being said, the Gerber Dime is going to be recommended by me. If you're thinking about a Leatherman Squirt, I might steer you closer to the Gerber Dime depending on your experience level. If you're a Leatherman collector, obviously don't listen to me, but if you're a newbie, like I said, perfect entry-level multi-tool, especially with the spring-loaded action. If you need to use this all day, it's going to be very gentle on you and your hands, which is lovely. All right, that's about it. I've been Joe. You've been watching Ink&Iron. Thank you for joining me for the Gerber Dime multi-tool review. If you want to see more multi-tool reviews, I also collect knives and fountain pens and all kinds of EDC gear. Please like this video, follow the channel, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on my next video. All right, bye.